Spartan speaking, by the way. Once I'm done, Beth's going to pop on, which is AKA Mama's Options, give you a little bit of a breakdown of the macro environment, any news events that happened over the course this evening or this morning that makes sense to be looking at and be aware of, as well as go through any of the bigger picture items, ETFs, commodities, bigger cap names, et cetera, you name it. After that's done, I'm going to come back on. We're going through the individual names that I'm looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll talk about those names from a technical standpoint, build an action plan for them, as well as go through the SPY, the FANG, the VIX, the Qs, and the IWM. Once that's done, we'll pass over to South Beach. He'll be going through the individual names that he's looking at, analyst calls for the day, as well as macro environment from his perspective. And then we'll do a quick little recap of those individual names I talked about this morning, and we'll be ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Beth, and I will talk to you guys shortly. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
I am indeed, sir. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Market here at SpartanTrading.com. Lots to talk about, obviously. We'll see how things play out and about. Yeah. Powell is testifying. Okay. I think that that will weigh heavy on the market as long as he's testifying. It is before the Senate Banking Committee. It's the semi-annual monetary policy testimony. Normally there is a pre-release in terms of content, what he's going to say. Then it's a Q&A, and then we'll see how that plays out. Market has not lately enjoyed him when he opens his mouth. It does tend to sell off. There's so many cross currents going on right now from a globalization, macro, war, whatever you want to call it, that it's really hard to digest. Bonds are the 10 years up, not what you would expect. The problem lies that they are saying one thing, the Fed, and they are not doing what they're saying. You know, they get an F minus, they continue to get an F minus. They continue to add to the balance sheet. How's that possible when they're saying, well, we're going to take off? Well, they're basically what's going on right now. They're just going to be taking off some of the stuff they added. There's no dent going to happening right now in terms of the balance sheet. And we know this just because of what they've got going in terms of the open market. Adding to the balance sheet, which is just stunning. Every time I see this come up on Twitter and these people posting this shit, it's like, what the hell? Just saying. All right, PPI quarter, UK, hotter than expected. Retail prices, hotter than expected. Inflation rate, better than expected. I don't know how that happens. I mean, one day at a time. Ex-food and energy, whatever. PPI, well, you know, get the job. Monetary policy meeting going on. We've got mortgage backs, right? The bond auction that came out, Jesus, from 1 month ago, from 1.15 to 1.91, crazy, right? We'll see, Redbook, then we get the testimony. There's a 2-year auction today. I hate this shit. Evans, Hooker, Boken, why are they allowed to talk? Then we get the API crew. Yippee! All right, let's take a look at our whisper report. You know, it's shocking that at least for this cycle, right? We start in 2 weeks, second week of July, we start with the banks again. This is going to be a very, very critical earnings cycle. And we're going to get a better sense as to who's able to maneuver through the supply chain disruptions, expenses going on, right? But yeah, I mean, look at the month of June. It's basically better than average, right? And then you can see right here, we have, this is what I'm talking about. Next week, we've got some interesting stuff, Micron, yada, yada, yada. And then the 11th, the week of the 11th, that's when we get the banks starting. And then we start to get some big boys, Netflix, et cetera. Okay. So we do have FedEx, right? We have done, we have some more stuff going through, right? Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Okay, this is what I'm talking to you about, right? During the first week of June, the Fed was a net buyer of treasuries, and last week the Fed was buying mortgage-backed securities to push up its balance sheet by about 12 billion. But it said it's going to reduce 47.5 billion per month starting on June 1st. How does this happen if it's starting to go up? If basically you're selling? That's not how it works. Okay, this is accounting 101. If you're going to sell, it goes down, not up. It's going up, not down the balance sheet. What the hell is going on here? Like I said, liar, liar, pants on fire. That really ticks me off. Like really ticks me off. All right, the destruction of wealth. This doesn't even include cryptos, which is like $2 trillion in wealth destruction. I mean, this goes back, friends, to 1980s. 60% of GDP, drawdown from previous peak as a percentage of GDP. This is a record. Well, I shouldn't say that. Going back to the 1980s, this is a record. I think I said specific. High yield bonds. This is what makes it so treacherous, is because this is rarefied. The last time we saw this, right, was in 2008, when you had this sort of destruction both on the financial side, interest rate products, and equities. These are high yield bonds. This is fascinating. This is going to be written up, my friends. BOJ will be the first to cross the 50% ownership mark. And this is why I say, well, the BOJ has been doing this for decades now, right? This only happens when people are suffering. Okay, you see this sort of increase on the balance sheet. Now, this is just gilts, treasuries. This is just interest rate products. Okay, this doesn't even show what they're doing on the equity side. The BOJ is the largest holder of equity in Japan, of the ETFs, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, this is just horrific. An aging population. Look, we're seeing things that will, the ramifications just going forward are just dramatic. I can't impress upon you enough what's going on here. More companies start to rescind job offers. We know that unemployment has to go up if we're going into a recession. This is just how it works, to 5-6%. We just can't stay here. We're going to start to see crazy ass spike in unemployment numbers. I'm telling you right now, it has to happen. And then you add on to that, people are coming off of retirement because they can't afford to stay retired because of the destruction of wealth and the cost of goods and services. Industries are pulling back job offers to recruits that they were quoting just a short time ago. Twitter, Redfin, all rescinding offers, Carvana, Uber. High gas prices hit demand as drivers cut back at the pump. Russian refinery set ablaze by drone crash. And Russia continues to broaden out. This is not just stopping at Ukraine. NATO, where are you? You say attack against one is attack against us all? Simulated missile strikes on NATO member Estonia? Come on. This is going to get a lot worse before it gets better because Putin feels emboldened. That's Powell goes to Capitol Hill, what to watch, take a peek at that. White House claim of inflation cushion undercut by savings there, yeah. You know, look, I'm equal opportunity, liar, liar, pants on fire. This is where it really matters. Those who cannot afford All right, this is the poorest of the quadrant. Okay, this is a big deal. And then what's going to happen is middle class are going to start to fall through the cracks. Same thing's going to happen in terms of their cash on hand households. Okay, I'm telling you right now. Right? No good comes from what's going on in terms of supply chain inflation. People are going to suffer. Those who you would not expect will start to suffer. And I don't want to talk about government subsidies or any of that shit. Okay, I don't. All right, I just don't. All I'm talking, people will suffer. What's going to happen? More and more people are going to have to sell property. They're going to have to basically sell homes. They're going to have to sell assets in order to basically make ends meet if they have assets on hand. Recession-fearing bosses quietly abandon open jobs. Taiwan scrambles jets to warn away Chinese planes in its air defense zone. God, the world we live in. Demand issues accounted for 1/3 of US inflation spike. So the San Francisco Fed basically came out with a report yesterday, basically saying that this supply chain disruption, guess what? It matters, right? It's a big deal, okay? In terms of the cost of goods and services. It's, you know, and it's not going away. Deglobalization, this is a product of deglobalization, and that's not going to change. All right, let's talk about this chip deal, right? Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. It's about freaking time. Do your job. Both Republicans and Democrats and independents, do your job. As Bogan supported FOMC's large rate increase, you mean? Germany prepares to trigger next stage of emergency gas plan. So, I mean, this is just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Hi, Japan PM backs. You know, this is everything I read. This is why I don't listen to news, okay? Because every time I open up and start reading from overnight stuff, it's like, oh my goodness gracious. PM backs BOJ easy money policy despite. This is just horrific. Yellen says Fed, yeah, okay, good luck with that. Without unemployment increasing significantly, yeah. His history says no way, Jose. That's a 0% chance, just say. It's just how it works. Got housing bubbles globally, oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. US, New Zealand. This is it. And then you got this, people trying to travel, and then you got long lines, canceled flights, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. Then you've got, do you know that the pilots union now has a contract saying that the starting salary for a pilot is $160,000 a year. That's a contract. The starting salary for a pilot is $160,000 a year. Go back and get your pilot's license, friends. Leverage muni funds sink as bond route drags on. Buying call for 3 months. Yeah. These bank stocks did well during the 1994 rate hike. It could be about to do so again. I don't know. KBW Bank Index, they did some sort of thing. Charles Schwab rose 17.7% in 1994. SVB Financial Group, Valley National Bank Corp, and First Bank Corp, and Cadence Bank. Soon as recession fears hit crypto markets, tobacco stocks on the spotlight with FDA, Meta platform slip again as B of A highlights delay of creator commissions. Fizzling, U.S. oil industry extends olive branch to Washington, unveils ban on harmful single-use plastics, Canada. Okay, just think about this. Okay. All right. Guess what? You go back and forth across the border to buy U.S. goods and services. You go shopping. I don't know what the hell this means. What the hell this means? You know what it means? Things are gonna cost you more in Canada. I'm just saying, it's gonna cost you more. That's the Canadian way. All right, what happened here? This is kind of fascinating. Basically, yesterday, okay, this is really interesting. Rates shifted in terms of on the Fed fund side down as opposed to up. See? The shift went from here all the way down to here. Really interesting. Yesterday. This is so light on the buying side, it's not even funny. I mean, this is really a thin market. That rally we'd had, at least on the option side, it was very, very light. I mean, really light. Let's take a peek at our friends here. What do we got? Tesla had 40.7 million, NEO 89.9. Don't forget to watch the Chinese, Li, NEO, XPEV. The Chinese once again are coming out in terms of subsidies to get people to buy electric vehicles. When I can't even begin to tell you about that. Let's see what's being hyped today. Apple, Bank of America, Cleveland Cliffs, Disney, FedEx. I don't think that's right. Let me refresh that. It may be, I don't know, but that seems like a lot for this kind of market. Come back. All right, what are our friends doing today? All right, we've got a 60 Kraft Heinz 67% out of BMO. Upgrade. Yay, right? All right, this is stunning. Small traders are sitting on hundreds of millions in losses that they have not taken. Small traders are sitting on hundreds of millions of losses they are not taking. That is why they're buying all these puts. They are the dumb money, usies and measies, accounted for 30% of the total options volume last week. That's unprecedented. That is unprecedented. What does it mean? Well, in 2008, it actually was bullish for the market. 2002, the dot-com bubble, it wasn't. 1 year out, it is. 6 months, you know, whatever. This is crazy stuff, friends. This is worse than it was, believe it or not, in the financial crisis of 2008, the dot-com bubble. Retail peeps, smallsies, usies and measies are panicking. Everything reset yesterday. Didn't take much. That's what it is in a bear market. Doesn't take much to reset, right? Breath. Well, XLP looked better, right? We're going to talk about the oil. We're going to talk about commodities today. Nav had pointed that Morgan Stanley is now net short commodities. That is oil, friends. I can tell you right now. McClellan oscillator still bouncing. That should roll over. We'll take a peek on that. All right. Let's take a look at the COT. Came out yesterday, right? So this is the NASDAQ, right? The four largest traders are actually net long. This is difference in percentage of open interest, okay? The net long. Really interesting stuff. So that plays out. Oh, I did want to show you also from a peeps at Elliott Wave, for those of you who want to know about what the count looks like. Okay, so they have alternate counts going on right now on the downside. The failure on SPY basically SPX has to hold, I think it is, what is it, 37, 31, something like that. Just so you know, if it doesn't hold, then they're looking at this alternate wave down into July. I thought I'd share that with you. Let's take a look at bonds. Yield curve is flattening. Oh, bonds are down across the board, right, globally. Right? So here we go. This is absolutely amazingly interesting, right? This is why the assumption that these bond traders know what the hell they're doing is erroneous. Because every single day you get these standard deviations moves and they're not consistent. Up one day, down one day, up one day, down one day, all right? We'll see how it plays out. We know that there, you know, the last couple of weeks, South Beach is saying that there's been someone who's been basically getting out of high-tech name, beta names, stuff like that, and going into bonds. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he's saying. It's interesting to think of it that way, right? Here's the 2.5, still flagging. This range seems to be holding, which is really quite something, right? Because you would think, right, we would continue to flatten and invert, not happening. 5.10, same thing, you would think, not happening. Here's the 5.30, you would think, not happening. So all this wall of worry about inversion, you know, the yield curve inverting, not happening. Yet, not happening. And that's one of the hallmarks of a recession. You do have the GDP component, obviously, 2 quarters in a row. That's the classic definition, but you know, we'll see. But normally there is an inversion of the yield curve as well. Here's a 10-year falling back inside. This is really quite something, right? Here's the Chinese 10-year. You know, this still between a rock and a hard spot. I still think their rates have to go down. But hey, it's China. They can, you know, these governments can do whatever they damn well want to do. They can exert their will and say, no, not going to happen. Look what happened in Germany. Rebuffed, right? Got this 23.6% FIP. Let's take a look at the dollar falling back down inside this key pivot. I mean, this is really interesting, right? We know that a strong dollar is no good comes from that globally. We know that to be true. Here's the Chinese yuan. Like I said, I think we're going to stay inside this quadrant, and that's going to be that. Cryptos. Oh boy. Here's Bitcoin. Well, you know the drill, right? It's falling back inside here. This is the bottom end of the Bollinger, probably getting down to the 15,200. You see that, that's the spread Bitcoin against the Qs. So as an asset class, guys, those of you who think that the Qs and the Bitcoin are neutral, it's not, okay? Bitcoin is selling harder than the Qs are selling off, notable. Bitcoin against Ethereum, so Ethereum's the weakest of it, right? And there's Ethereum breaking down, who would have thought? Here's DBC, commodities, still holding up okay. I mean, it's still going to, you know, we're getting to the point where on a risk reward funds, we're going to start nibbling on oil. Okay, just wanted you to know on that, right? It's a well-defined risk reward down here, reversion to the mean, 6.39. So I'll let you know when I start buying a little bit. Okay, here's UNG. We'll probably keep the KOLD calls on though, FYI, and it's going to be a really small amount. All right, so here's natural gas against, so this is the physical against the refiners, right? Kind of in the middle of the range here. No real setup for us there. All right, here's oil, as you can see here, holding right here. I was asked last week about buying, so I said, hold off. I think now we can start looking at it. Very, very small starter. I'll post it, okay? Here's some of the refiners, natural gas. This is just sideways consolidation before we make the next leg up. Sideways consolidation, they all look alike, right? This is the range, bottom end of the range. Want to buy when nobody wants to buy. We're pretty much there right now. You can see that. You know, with the stops basically would be right there at the 50-year man, the monthly. Okay, if not, then it's going to go lower, right? DLNG, so it's one picture, right? Is TEL actually is interesting because it actually is the weakest, believe it or not, of these, which I find fascinating. It is reverted back to the mean, but it is trying to reclaim and hold the 6 downtrend line. So we'll keep an eye on that one. All right, here's crude against natty gas. You can see that crude's been rallying against natty gas, but got rebuffed here, so that's notable. Here's crude in and of itself, you can see. So I still have my, I bought some USO puts yesterday and I have some SCO on. as a hedge against my portfolio. I want to keep an eye on this to see what happens here. I think if they're going to go after the refiners again, just keep an eye on the oil names, XLE, etc. Here's Gush, right? So this is basically 2 times. We'll just see how this plays out. What am I looking at right here? Basically taking this out, and then we start. If we do, we do have a lot of room here on the downside. Okay. And this could be part of quarter end rebalancing, taking profits once again. XLE, keep an eye on this one. So basically, we're at this low. If we break this low and that comes in, that's last week's low, right? 72.60. Just keep an eye on that. I will be aggressively buying puts. Okay. So we take out last week's low. I will be buying puts. If it does not, then we're making a higher low, and then that's bullish. Here's XLE against USO. So this is the refiners against the physical. So the refiners are actually holding up better than the physical right now. That's what this means, right? And you can see it continues. So as long as I have these hedges on, I'm not as concerned in terms of on the refiner side. Because I am hedging with the physical, and this is what it's telling me to do, to basically be hedging with the physical. So I'm short, that's why I'm in SCO, and that's why I'm USO puts, okay, SCO equity. And I got quite a large position on that as a hedge. It's 3 times, so it actually is making money as an offset. So let's keep an eye on this, see if that continues to increase that spread. Chevron, starting to break down again. Once again, look at last week's low on these. Chevron XOM. Chevron is the weakest, notable, all right? So if you're going to go after something, I would actually think, to be honest with you, that ExxonMobil will start catching up right on the downside. Watch Oxy. This is obviously the most that has to be in terms of profit taking. I mean, it's still ridiculously up for the year, right? I mean, from 28, right? It's 55. So there's money that can be peeled off of that. His OIH against XLE, not much, it's equal right there. A little bit of a bounce going on the OIH in terms of that. The sideways consolidation, but it's at the lower quadrant here. Please, please, please. Breaking of these lows is notable because we do have a lot of room on the downside here. So that would be like Schlumberger puts, something like that. Okay, his gold against crude. Gold continues out to perform. Do not forget, this is a heavily traded spread globally. It does not matter in the United States. Outside the United States, we don't give a shit, but outside the United States, they do care. There is a lot of money in this, okay?
Hi, Beth, ready to pop on whatever here. All right, people. Thank you, Beth, so much. Guys, morning, what's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. So if you guys are new to chat and have already done so, make sure to click on the Discord link that's emailed to you. When you guys do pop into the Discord, it's going to look something like this. Whoops, one sec. Let me just pop it up. It's going to look something like this. If it would load, there we go. When you guys do pop in, go to the new to chat information, read it from the top down. If you're coming in from the free server, you do need to leave the server and then click on the Discord link that we do send you. Otherwise, you will not have access to all the alert channels, etc. It's the only way to get access because he needs to reassign you the new roles. All right. So when you guys do come in, like I said, new to chat information section, scroll to the top, read it from the top down. Areas to hit, disclaimer, hit this risk reward section, hit the summary of how this chat works, give a read of how to read the alerts, options rules that we use, anyone with a small account, how to pick trades, and then click on the high conviction area and check on that as well. So let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. Pre-market tickers on watch, a couple of different things: Tesla, Microsoft, NVIDIA, CVX, Coin, Rev. And if you guys did see my message in the option section on Rev, because we're going to be up a crap load on those options. I did short against my position about 1/8 to lock in 1/8 size around this area. So let's say you had, I don't know, let's say you had 10 contracts and you wanted to lock in half of them at this price. You would short 500 shares here, and you'll be boxing in your option profits on Rev. Just an FYI, okay? Just for only those 5 contracts, of course. So all these names basically gapping down in sympathy with the market. Tesla, Microsoft, Nvidia, CVX gapping down, sympathy with crude, coin gapping down, sympathy with the market. And then Rev continues to short squeeze from last day's momentum and relative volume still very high. So obviously we got continuation there, which is, fantastic for us. All right, let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. Like I said, not a ton of news, just the market obviously pulling back overnight, which is causing a lot of these individual names to obviously pull back as well. No surprises in that regard. I'm just going to do one thing, guys, in regards to my settings on one of my charts. There we go. Just adjusting my SPY chart there. Okay, let's take a look at the first two names today, which are going to be Tesla and I believe it's Microsoft. Yes. So Tesla and Microsoft. Let's have a gander, guys, at these two. So what do we got? So Tesla, obviously, a little bit of a gap down from last day. Let's see that daily chart here. Absolutely fantastic move on this name. Last day's move, at least. It did reclaim EMA support. It did break the downtrend. It's pulling back right now to retest short-term EMA support, which is not surprising. That's what you need for confirmation or break back to the upside. It's going to be a lot about this hourly downtrend breaking as well, which we can just simply put in place. And that hourly uptrend is pretty far back, but we might as well put it in place as well. You can see that little wedge that's tightening there. Okay. Let's zoom in here. Let's get rid of some levels and then we can start marking things up. Just clean it up a little bit. All right, cool. That will suffice, guys. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on Tesla today. So pivot to the upside on Tesla, guys, is going to be this level right here, 796. This level is able to hold. We do have room towards 709.41 to 718.20 above upside resistance levels. Of course, we got room towards 725 to 730 last day's high area. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Tesla towards 692.74, which is right where that 13 EMA is on the daily. That level breaks, we're talking 675.37, and then you'll be into that uptrend on the daily as well. If the market, if Tesla stays within the range today, which I do believe it will, I don't think it's going to break the range to the upside or the downside, aka last day's range higher or lower. We just got to keep an eye on these uptrend and downtrend levels because they should help dictate direction on the name today. Let's take a look at Microsoft. So Microsoft breaking below last day's low at the moment. Just certainly notable. Taking a look at the daily, it obviously came up towards short-term EMA resistance, got rejected there. Alrighty. So pivot to the upside today, 249.57. This level is able to hold to get room towards the 252.92 to 255.27 resistance levels. Unable to hold 246.26 to 242.89 on the downside will be tested. You can obviously see that the uptrend on the short term is broken, but the uptrend off the lows is not. Overall, right now on Microsoft, I'm going to be leading on the bearish neutral side this morning, looking for it to come in a little bit, potentially retest that uptrend, and then we can look for a bounce after that, in my opinion. So that is Microsoft. Let's take a screenshot of these both. Let's move on to the next two names here. That's Tesla, that's Microsoft. Let's take a look at the video. Let's take a look at CVX. Yep, so NVIDIA, same levels as yesterday then. NVIDIA pivot to the downside 163.04. This level is unable to hold 159.03 to 155.66 will be tested. Able to hold 165.37 to 168.84. Going to be leaning bearish neutral, looking for it to roll over a little bit more this morning. And then I'll be looking for a some basing for a bounce on that. Let's take a look at CVX, which actually came in pretty good. And that daily chart is not looking too hot at the moment. We're back below this support level on the daily, and that's a big level because it's a range break on the, not just the daily, it's the weekly as well, to the downside, which gives it quite a bit of room lower. Let's just go back. I just need to see something, guys. Okay. I don't think I need to do that, but I will. It's not really any supports after. One sec, guys. Not sure what's going on with this. Might have to reload the platform real quick. For some reason, it's kicked out. Looks like that is going to be correct. Okay, one sec, guys. Just going to reload this. This platform's been a little bit iffy the last couple of days. Should have saved everything though, so we'll see. Looks like we did. Cool. NVIDIA, let's see if it saved it all. Cool, great, fantastic. All right, CVX. So going back to that, guys. We're gonna have to eye the lower end level. Okay, so it's 139.41, and let's get one upper and resistance pivot point. That did break, which I don't think it's going to. Here we go. So pivot to the downside today, 151.48. Unable to hold, we got room towards 145.59. If that level breaks, we got room towards 139s. Able to hold 156.19 to 160.32 on the upside will be tested. Overall, in CVX, going to be leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower. If it is unable to reclaim that pivot this morning, unable to reclaim that pivot, you got confirmation of a range break on the weekly to the downside. And I think we get continuation back towards recent range lows and most likely through that level. So that's NVIDIA, that is CVX. All right, let's take a screenshot of these two. Let's move on to the next. Coin and Rev, which I know everyone wants to see Rev. It's going to be an interesting one. See where we got our room to now. Coin. Let's take a gander at this. Actually, absolutely love this daily chart. Coin 52.92 pivot. This level is unable to hold towards 49.34 to 45.81. Able to hold 57.56 to 61.12 on the upside will be tested. Overall on coin, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side right now, looking for a continuation lower into this uptrend. So not like a huge pull. I want to see basically, you know what? I'll say this. I'll be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a pull this morning into support and a hold of that level for a bounce. So I actually do like the name for a pushback off the lows. It just needs to bounce off of that level first and foremost. All right, let's take a look at Rev here. So as we know, we got that big squeeze yesterday. Let's see where we got room to today. Let's get some major levels labeled. Get our supports. Okay. I always like to go a little bit higher if it just does start to run. It has been quite the ripper. Okay, I choose that level over that. Choose this. Okay, let's take a look at this thing intraday. Delete the upper. Cool. 770 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold 872 to 990. Unable to hold. We look for pullback towards 666 to 571. That level breaks. 405 will be tested. Overall on Rev, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot is able to hold. I think it can continue to squeeze, guys. We'll have to keep an eye on that volume. Again, if it's out of sight, like we're talking over 100 million shares traded, then it's hard to think that this thing's really going to pull back. That's absolutely crazy volume, right? So that's coin. That is Rev. All right, let's take a look at the spine of the Fang. And yes, I still call it the Fang because I'm not going to call it the Mang. So SPY, what do we got? 370.41 pivot. Unable to hold. 364.90 to 361.80 will be tested. Able to hold. We got room back towards 370, 535 to 380.11. Now, let's see here. I might put in two more levels, but I'm going to just take a quick look at the daily. So kind of like the wide ranges on it. I think you need really anything else. Maybe technically. Should put in the support technically. Technically that resistance. Okay, that's fine. That works. All right, so 370.41 pivot. Levels unable to hold 368.15. That level breaks 364.90. Able to hold 372.77 to 375.35 will be tested on the upside. Overall on the SPY at the moment, Going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold. It broke the inverted head and shoulders on the daily, but if it does get above that level, I will go back to being bullish in the short term. And that level is the pivot, 370.41. So right now it's leaning bearish because of that support break on the daily to the downside. Just an FYI. All right, let's take a look at Apple. 132.54. Pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. We got room towards 131.26. That level breaks. We can see further continuation lower into the 128.88. Sorry, I'm just trying to match these two. There we go. Able to hold on Apple. Room higher into the 135.17 to 137.62. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning on the 32.67. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a bounce off of this pivot point and a push back up. See if we can fill that gap there. Doesn't look half bad. You still got that inverted head and shoulders on the daily holding. Yeah, it did get rejected at short-term EMA resistance retest on the upside, but you do have these daily supports intact on it still. So I do like that a little bit better. Let's take a look at Amazon. A little bit tough to look at because of this stupid misprint candle, but 108.90 pivot to the downside today at levels unable to hold 106.02 to 103.50. Able to hold 112.49 to 116.09 on the upside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for continuation lower if it's unable to get back above that pivot. A little bit of a heavier looking chart there on Amazon. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix, bear flagging on the daily, pivot 171.39. Unable to hold, we got room towards 165.03. Able to hold, we look for pushback towards the 170. 541 level on the upside. Overall, Netflix leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower today. And that is Netflix. Let's take a look at Google. Sorry, Meta. Look at this chart, eh? Oof. We're talking not great looking. $156.56 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold. 150.91 will be tested. Able to hold 161.61 on the upside. Overall on Meta, going to be leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower if the pivot point is unable to hold. And that is Meta. Let's take a look at Google here. 2174 pivot. This level is able to hold towards 2230, unable to hold 2115 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Google, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a little bit of a pullback. It did break the EMA resistance to the upside yesterday, but it's obviously breaking back below it. So we'll see what happens. If it can hold the pivot, I think you can get a decent bounce on it. We'll see what happens in that regard, though. So that is Google. All right, let's take a look at the Qs, the IWM and the VIX. All right, the VIX. Let's have a look. All right. So what's going on with the VIX, guys? We do have a flag on the daily, still holding EMA support in the short term. Downtrend, it's kind of hard to draw, but you can see that it's broken in the short term. 3112 pivot to the upside today. Level holds 3302. Level breaks 3512. Unable to hold 2886 to 2638. Overall on the VIX, not leaning in a particular direction, but I do look at this, guys, and stare at it all day for direction on the market, and you should as well, because it does help quite a bit. If you ever see the market consolidating, just watch the VIX. It's going to tell you what the market's going to do for the most part. It gives you some great little hints and insights. Okay, that's the VIX. Let's take a look at the QQQs. Very similar chart to Apple, actually. Much stronger than what we've seen across the board. Pivot to the downside today, 2780 levels able to be reclaimed. We're looking at the 283.54 to 287.29, unable to hold 273.81 to 268.80 on the downside will be tested. Overall on the Qs, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a continuation lower if the pivot point's unable to hold. So that's QQQs, guys. Let's take a look at ZIWM. IWM 165.22 pivot, levels unable to hold towards 162.65. If that level holds, we can look for a push back towards 168.70 on the upside. Overall on IWM, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today. This looks a little bit heavier, and you can see the bear flag that's formed on the hourly here. So if this level is unable to hold, I would expect a continuation sell-off for now. And that is the IWM. So guys, that's a SPY, that's the thing. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. We'll see what happens. Overall market, doesn't look great, but it's kind of hard to buy it or sell or short a down opening like this. So we have to wait and see if we get a little bit of a bounce out the gate, or we get a continued pull off, and then we can look for a little bit of a bounce off the lows. Either way, there should be something to play. And I'm going to go ahead and pass over to South Beach, guys, while I type up the pre-market action plan, and we'll talk to you shortly. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Morning, guys. Okay, let's see what we got today. Let's look at the bond market. Let's start things off. Okay, so the 10 years down 0.15, which is a giant move, right? 3.15, high was 350-ish. So 3.15, let's look at the spread. So the spread is 6. That's the lowest I've seen. Okay, so I think the bond market's telling us that they think a recession's coming, and I agree with them 100%. Okay, so that's that. Let's look at foreign markets. Basically, bonds are down across the board. Recession fears are what's really, running things the way it is. 10-year in London's down 0.16. Their spread is a little less, I think, 211, 20, 30. So it was 50, half a point last week. Now it's 0.33. Okay, so moving in the recession direction, but we'll see what happens with that. on the bund in Germany is 161, down 0.15. You get the drift, okay? Recession fears are causing bond prices to come in a little bit, okay? And also you have oil down a bunch, so that's not hurting lower bonds. So that's that, okay? Let's look at commodities. So we got oil down 5%, a little bit more than that. Carrying on. I think technically oil must be kind of crappy after the move we had on Friday and today. Natural gas is at 660, so that's down from what, 950 or so, 930, whatever it was. So that's a big move, right? I mean, $3 and 9, it's almost a 30% move, maybe a little bit less, but clearly significant. Metal market, don't really care except about copper. And copper broke that 4 handle. So it's at the bottom of its range for the last, year or so? Is it a year? Let me see if it's a full year. I can't get this to switch. For the last, oh, here it is. Yeah, it's the lowest price for the last year. What is that telling us? Since copper is an industrial metal, it's telling us that GDP growth is in question. Okay, and they're basically forecasting a recession there as well. As far as agricultural commodities, they are starting to come off their highs pretty good. Wheat is down a fair amount from its high. Corn is down a fair amount from its high, maybe 15%. Lumber is down a good amount from its high. Cotton, again, all these things are starting to come in. So, globally, these Fed governors are having some success with what they're doing. All right, currency wise, dollars mixed against North America, down against the yen, up against the Chinese currency, and the euros at 105. Crypto wise, we're down to the 20,000 level again on Bitcoin, 20,300. Ethereum's, that's down 2.5%. Ethereum's down 3.5%, and Solana is down 5%. Okay, crypto. So that's in a seriously ugly market, crypto, like the rest of things, basically. The FTSE's down 1%, DAX down 2%, CAC down almost a little more than 1.5. The only market up I could see is Russia. That's up 2 points, which is 0.1, so it's not down. Nikkei is down a little bit. China's down 1.5%. Hong Kong's down 2.5%. That's the backdrop. Okay, so that's that. Banks and Fed. We got Powell speaking today at 9:30. Lately, when Powell talks, markets get hit. But we'll see what happens this time. He did have a rally the day he spoke with the 75 basis points, and then the following day. You notice that little pattern. You have a great up day followed by a really shitty day. That's what bear markets are. Okay, so clearly we're in a bear market. I don't think there's any question about it. Okay. China, what's going on with these guys? Let's see what he said today. He wants to regulate the use of big data and algorithms. What do you say for that? Next, let's talk about Russia. I don't want to insult our Chinese friends, so I just move on. Let's see, with Russia, what are they starting today? They're starting with Estonia today. They're pissed off about there's a railway that they want to move goods through, and Estonia is saying no. I think this is a real issue, guys, because Estonia is a NATO country. Okay, so if they screw with Estonia, we have no choice. We're in. Okay, as is the rest of NATO. So I don't know how this is going to go. It's something we have to keep our eye on, even more than Ukraine, guys, because as a NATO country, we're committed. Okay, and they're also screwing around with Lithuania and Latvia, having different things going on there as far as war games and whatnot. Okay, so I don't know if it's a tactic or not, twins. All I'm saying is we have to keep an eye on it. If they were to attack these places, all hell would break loose. Okay, period, end of story. All right, this is way different than Ukraine. These are NATO countries. When a NATO country gets attacked, according to the NATO bylaws, we're all in. Okay. WW3, here we go. Okay, so I don't think it's going to happen, but it's something you have to watch very, 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 very carefully. Okay, so that's another thing. What else are they doing today, these Russians? Let's see. I think that's the bulk of it, the gist of it. Okay. Crypto, we discussed. Oil markets. I'll talk about Jeff Curry in a moment. He's the oil guru out of Goldman Sachs. Commodity guru, I should say, but the guy's been dead right. Everything he said since he started talking. So we'll revisit that. The virus, everybody's getting, a lot of people I know have COVID. 2 members of my family have it, my brother and my sister-in-law, and it doesn't seem to affect anybody but those who have it. So that's how it goes. Okay. The dollar missed the market. So you had that rippy day yesterday. Everything was kind of, I thought that was the worst looking 90 handle move I've ever seen, because nothing was really super strong. FANG had a decent day. Pharma and consumer non-durables really were the best. But nothing was that, for a 700-point day in the market, I didn't think things looked so good. Hotels were on the negative side. Entertainment was on the negative side, but the price movement, I didn't think it was that big, to be honest. So that was Mr. Market. And let's see what else we got today. Okay. Bill Dudley, ex-New York Fed chairman, says a recession is inevitable. Okay. Citibank says 50% chance of a global recession. Goldman Sachs up their recessionary probability from 15 to 30%. What else? So everybody's thinking recession, basically. I think it's inevitable. How big a recession is it going to be? That's really the question. Okay. So that's what I see as the big issue here. Okay. And basically what, stocks go down peak to trough in a recession 40%. Okay. This is what were they saying? This is the worst start of a year, worst first half so far since 1974 for the S&Ps. So a lot of negative shit out there. And I think the market just looks like crap. All right. I think, when you stick your head and you get long, it's like whack-a-mole. All right. You stick your head up, you think you got things going on, and they'll whack your head. Okay. That's how I see it. So that's that. Let's talk about Jeff Curry. Okay. So Jeff Curry is the Goldman guy, commodities guy, yada, yada, yada. Okay. He talked about this new Biden tax holiday on the federal. It comes to 18.4 cents a gallon. Okay, so he says, they asked him, what do you think about this move? And he said, basically supply and demand, right? You decrease the price, demand goes up. All right, so he says it's not going to do anything. I think anybody who took economics in high school would know that, but Biden is obviously trying to buy votes. But he couldn't win the way things are going right now, no matter who ran against him, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the equation you're on. Okay. Basically, he was saying that the crack spread is the highest on record, and don't be swayed by the price of oil down today by the inherent strength of commodities. Okay, he says this is a technical move in oil, and maybe it's based on that Russian, what's it called, getting blown up refinery. Maybe there'll be, a bottleneck for oil. Who knows what the reason is? Okay, but he's super bullish. It's the only things that have been up this year are carbon-based commodities. That's oil and gas. And he also said, what was he saying? It was really interesting. Carbohydrates, which is carbon plus oxygen. So he says, wheat and stuff like that, also super strong. So he thinks anything carbon-based is where you want to be. Refineries all-time high. The gas tax is a joke. And that's basically it. And he continues to be bullish on the sector. Okay. Okay, so that's Jeff Curry. What did I miss? I'm going to answer Willie's question. When bonds rally like this aggressively, what sectors benefit? You have to ask yourself, Willie, you can't just look at one bond. You can't just look at the 10-year. You have to look at it in conjunction with the curve. And that's, so ordinarily you would think, okay, bonds are rallying, maybe techs would do better, right? Because the price of, the yield goes down, and these companies that borrow money or have using the dividend get cash flow or dividend discount model, you revert back to the current date, and the penalty box is not as bad when rates go down, right? For borrowing, for when you're going to finally make money. So you would think commodities would be the place, high PE type of names would be best served as rates go lower. Okay, that would be the initial thought. All right, that's of any help. But you also have to look at the curve as far as banks and whatnot. Okay, so that's a whole different can of worms. The simple answer is when rates go down, high PE names should outperform. Okay, that's it in a nutshell. Okay, buddy. All right, so that's that. All right, let's look at numbers wise. Lazy Boy was good. Winnebago was good. Corn Ferry was good. ENTA is suing Pfizer. IKNA, fast track designation. ANIP had FDA news. Okay. Revlon is up. I still have about 15-20% of my position. I'll probably get out of it today. So on these calls that I bought at 30 cents, they're now worth $5.50. Okay, not too shabby. What else we got today? So that's the bullish side. On the negative side, you had this MFGP and EVA with numbers, ATHA, negative FDA news. Boeing CEO spoke today on challenges regarding supply chain. He thinks the challenges will last through year end. The best thing that could happen to Boeing would be this CEO that's talking this morning is told to take a walk because the guy is completely inept. Yes, Kramer's pumping Meta. After the close, we have KBH, FOR in full, and tomorrow I show Carnival Cruise reports, but this thing has always been wrong. I use Earnings Whisper, and it's always been wrong with Carnival, so I don't trust it. Does anybody know if Carnival really reports? Because they're always wrong when it comes to Carnival. Always. So if anybody knows the real answer, let me know. It does say Carnival. I don't believe it. Carmex, QTNT, and BZ are the other names. Okay, so that's who's reporting. What else do we have today? We have research. Let's see what these dingbats are saying this morning. Right, on the bullish side, well, first of all, we have Citibank bullish on Kellogg's. They take the target from 83 to 87. And there's another knucklehead that says this doesn't mean a hill of beans, and he continues to not like the stock, and he reduces his target from 74 to 72. So that's Deutsche Bank against Citibank. My opinion on this, guys, June 24th, 9:15. So it's correct. Thanks, Perry. Okay. When you split these companies up, invariably, you end up, the pieces are better than the whole, because usually this is, there's no 100% trade in this business. You know that. You guys know this by this point. But generally, when these companies can operate autonomously, the different divisions, they tend to be a lot more focused on increasing shareholder value. They are a lot more nimble as far as doing acquisitions or selling divisions and streamlining the company and whatnot. So I have found over the years that investing in these pieces has been a very lucrative thing to do. Okay. And so I think the Citibank analyst is a lot more right than ordinarily you'd say to yourself, okay, stock splits 3-for-1. What's the difference? Well, there is no difference, right? You get the same thing. It's the same company. This is a little different because in these cases, the new management team is aggressively pursuing changing the complexion of the company and can be a lot more nimble with a smaller company and a board that's completely focused on that particular division. All right, so I think the guy who said what he said, a negative Kellogg's is dead wrong. Okay, that's JP Morgan versus, JP Morgan versus Citibank. All right, what else do we have? Coin, Mizuho's neutral, target 45. When the stock's 53, 57, and they're 45, that's not neutral, guys, that's a sell. All right, Credit Suisse doesn't like Dow. He's about the third guy that said that. Supply and demand is reversing, okay, lower for these commodity chemical companies. And he has a 49 target in Dow Chemical. I have been shorting this, trading this from the short side. What else do we have? BBBY, they report soon, I think. And a couple of guys are out negative. One guy has a 5 target. That's a week from today, they report. One guy has a 5 target. One guy has, I think, a 6 target. The UBS guy is a 5 target, stock 670. Okay, so that's that one. Pulte Home, take the target down from 56 to 41, stocks 37. I think home builders have an issue here. I mean, I don't think with interest rates gone now, the 10-year is 6% for a mortgage. All right, up from what? I think 3 at the beginning of the year, and what, 1.5, 2.5 last year. So that changes things, guys, and the ability of people to afford the prices that are going to change. So I think sellers have to, understand the new paradigm, and they're going to have to adjust price. And I think most of them won't, so there'll be an inventory build. Okay. So I think that's an issue. Let me see if there's anything bullish. NTAP, Citibank likes it, 120 target. AR and Apache, Raymond James likes those two. Those were probably the best calls. I think the market looks, acts, smells like shit, and I think it's going lower. And that's it for me. No change. Spartan, it's all yours, my man. Spartan?
There, I'm back. Sorry. I just was running and grabbing a glass of water there. Anyways, guys, thank you so much, Health Beach. Thank you, Beth. Let's take a look at what we got going on today. If you guys are new to the chat and have already done so, make sure to click on that Discord link that's emailed to you. When you guys do come into chat, it's going to look like this. We'll go through the new to chat information section in just a little bit here. But anyways, let's take a look at what we got going on today. So I did post everything in the pre-market section. So we can quickly go over that. Continue to scroll up. Oh, actually scroll down. So if you guys are watching the YouTube stream, you can just pause it. You can read the pre-market action plan right there for Coin Rev, NVIDIA CVX, Tesla, and Microsoft as well. And then on the options side, we do have the options, all the options stuff in regards to calls and puts. And let's quickly go through it all. So pre-market tickers and watch, a couple different things. Most things are just gapping down in sympathy with the market. Nothing really major there. Tesla, Microsoft, NVIDIA, CVX, Coin, Rev. Let's look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two we're looking at today, guys, are Tesla and Microsoft. So Tesla, Microsoft, let's have a look. Tesla 796 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold 692.74 to 675.37 will be tested. Able to hold 709.40 to 718.20 on the upside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher. I want to see a bounce back above the 50 MA and a push into this downtrend here on the upside. Microsoft pivot 249.57, levels unable to hold. We got room towards 246.26 to 242.89. Able to hold 252.92 to 255.27. Microsoft leaning bearish neutral, looking for a little bit of a pull down into that uptrend, and then we can look for a bounce off of that. That's what I'm thinking, at least for now. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. Let's take a look at CVX. So NVIDIA, guys, pivot to the upside 163.04, levels able to hold 165.37 to 168.84 will be tested. Unable to hold 159.03 to 155.66 on the downside. Overall on NVIDIA, guys, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a little bit of a pull down, and then we can see what's what on that as well. Let's take a look at CVX here. There we go. CVX 151.49 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold 145.59 will be tested. If that level breaks, we see further continuation lower into the 139 level. Able to hold, look for a push towards 156.19 to 160.32 on the upside. Overall on CVX, going to be leaning bearish neutral, looking for a continuation lower. Let's take a look at the next names here. It's going to be Coin and Rev. Coin pivot to the downside today is going to be the 52.92 spot. Levels able to hold. We got room towards 57.56. Able to hold 61.12 will be tested. Unable to hold 49.34 to 35.81 on the downside. Overall on this name, Coin going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Looking for basically a bounce off of that uptrend for a continued push higher. Rev, let's take a look at this. Pivot to the upside 770. Levels able to hold 872 to 990. Unable to hold 666 to 571 on the downside. Overall on Rev, going to be leaning bullish neutral there as well. SPY pivot, let's take a look at this. SPY 370.41 pivot to the upside today, or sorry, downside. This level, whoops. Let's see. This level is unable to hold. Room lower into the 368.15 support. Breaks, we see the 364.90 tested. Pivot holds. Boom. Higher into the 372.77 resistance. Breaks. We see the 375.35 tested. Meaning bearish, neutral if pivot unable to reclaim. I don't really want to short, like I said before, guys. I'm not really big on shorting down opens like this. I don't think that shorting down opens like this is a good idea. But we'll see how it acts on the open. If we get a little bit of a bounce rollover or what have you. Or maybe we just get a bounce out the gate. But that's what I'm thinking there on the SPY. Let's take a look at the rest of the thing here.
Spartan, I 100% agree with you, even though I'm bearish. I would never short this down open.
Yeah. Risk reward is just not good, guys. That's all. Okay, let's take a look at Apple. Apple pivot to the downside today is 132.54. This level holds 135.17 and 137.63. Unable to hold 131.26 to 128.86 will be 88. So it will be tested on the downside. Overall, on Apple leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a continuation push higher today. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the upside, or sorry, downside, I should say. 108.90 levels able to hold 112.49 to 116.09 will be tested. Unable to hold 106.02 to 103.50 on the downside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side today, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold as well. Let's take a look at, sorry guys, I'm just trying to do this real quick. Let's take a look at Netflix. 171.39 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. We have room lower into the 165.03. That level breaks. We can see it further continuation lower. Able to hold, look for a push back towards 175.41 to 179.72 on the upside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bear side of that as well. Meta. Meta pivot to the downside today, 156.56 levels unable to hold, room towards 150.91, able to hold 161.61 to 166.71 will be tested on the upside. Overall on Meta, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today as well as the pivots unable to hold. Last but not least, guys, Google pivot to the downside today is going to be the 21.74 levels able to hold. 22.30 will be retested, unable to hold 21.15. Leaning bearish, looking for a retest that level, and I think we can get a bounce off of it as well. Let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM, guys. VIX, as we know, pivot 31.12. It's flagging on the daily. This level is unable to hold 28.86 to 26.38 will be tested. Able to hold 33.02 to 35.12 on the upside. Not leaning any particular direction. QQQs. 279.80 pivot levels able to hold 285.54 to 287.29, unable to hold 273.81 to 268.60 on the downside will be tested. And overall on the QQQ is going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side there. And last but not least, my friends, let's take a look at the IWM here. Pivot to the downside today is going to be 165.22, levels unable to hold 162.65, able to hold 168.70 on the upside. Overall on IWM, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today if that pivot's unable to hold. So that's the SPY. That's the thing. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. We'll see what happens going forward. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you're watching the YouTube stream, thanks for joining us this morning. There is the free Discord link in the description of the video, as well as you can go to the website, sign up, come check us out, trade with us.